Liberal leader Sussan Ley has publicly rebuked Senator Jacinta Nampijinpa Price for her comments about Indian immigration, telling the ABC that they were wrong and would not be repeated.
They were wrong, they have been corrected, and they won't be repeated. I want to say in the clearest possible terms that yes, the comments were wrong. They shouldn't have been made. They were corrected, and Jacinta is undertaking her own engagement with the Indian Australian
This goes
community.
to your authority.
Yeah, but here's what Senator Price said.
There is a concern with the Indian community, and only because there's been large numbers, and we can see that reflected in the way that the community votes for Labor at the same time. So if they're going to see a reflection that, OK, these individuals are going to vote for us more so than other parts of the community, well, then, of course, they're going to express a view that we'll get those sorts of individuals into our communities.
There's nothing racist in noting that Labor like high immigration because they believe it gives them an electoral advantage. But Labor cried racism and Sussan Ley panicked. She's in Western Sydney today schmoozing the Indian community. And she wasn't the only Liberal MP demonising Senator Price for stating the obvious about the ALP. Here's another of her colleagues, Shadow Immigration spokesman Paul Scarr.
Do you agree with Jacinta Price that after letting members of the Indian community into the country, they've turned around and voted for Labor after the government let them in?
No.
And what
I don't agree.
And how damaging are those comments to the Liberal cause?
The comments were very unhelpful, and I think it was appropriate, but Jacinta corrected the record in terms of making it clear that Australia has a non-discriminatory immigration policy.
Which all begs the question, why do you need the Labor Party to attack the Libs when the Libs are so good at attacking their own?
And speaking of which, Senator Price revealed that another colleague, Alex Hawke, had abused her staff and threatened her if she didn't apologise for her comments on immigration. She wrote on social media, he even pressed my staff that if I did not comply with his requests, I may end up like another female member of the coalition who I won't name. Later that day, I sent him a WhatsApp message to call out his cowardly and inappropriate conduct. If people want to talk about so-called women problem in the Liberal Party, then it's this. We don't stand up for women when they are mistreated by our own colleagues. Well, gee, there's a lot to unpack here, James.
Yeah.
Firstly, I just want to start with the comments that Jacinta Nampijinpa Price made on the ABC this week. Again, this comes down to the left always make a big deal when you make comments about migration.
Yep.
And we've seen it all week, stemming from those protests that we saw over the weekend. Racism, racism, racism. It is not racist to have a conversation about migration. Migration works politically well for Labor. There's no doubt about that. You recall in the lead up to the election, remember Tony Burke went on his big citizenship bonanza of the country where, you know, it was like his Oprah Winfrey moment. Everybody got a citizenship because they wanted the votes, OK? It works for Labor politically. Then you've got Sussan Ley out on a peace mission today, schmoozing up to the Indian community. Well, how about start with your own plan to lower migration? We're not saying we're anti-migration. We're saying come up with a plan in the middle of a cost of living crisis when our own Australians can't get into housing. How about coming up with a plan instead of rushing on this peacekeeping mission with the Indian community?
Just to be clear, Senator Price basically said four things. She said there's a large number of Indian migrants in this country. True. It's not racist to note.
No.
She said they overwhelmingly vote Labor. They did at the last election, according to Redbridge. True. Not racist to point that out. She said many are uninformed about politics and believe Labor lies. That's probably true. It's not racist to suspect that. And she said that many end up on welfare. Maybe that's debatable, but none of it is racist.
No.
And I think one of two things happened here, maybe a bit of both.
Yeah.
The Liberal Party panicked because as soon as someone says racist, and they panicked. The other thing I wonder if there's been an opportunity here for some in the Liberal Party who don't like Senator Price with a high profile coming from the National Party to just take her down a peg or two. And the fact that many would rather do that than address the genuine concerns that she was articulating on behalf of many Australians, that we're concerned about the number of migrants and we're also concerned about the quality of migrants. It's not racist to say that that could be an issue we'd like to discuss.
No.
There's been an opportunity to use that to just bring her down a peg or two.
I completely agree. I think that there are people within the Liberal Party who are very worried about Senator Jacinta Nampijinpa Price because she's gaining ground. She was one of the only Liberals to come out over the last week and actually praised the Marches for Australia, saying, yes, they were hijacked by a very small number of neo-Nazis, but the overwhelming number of people who were at those marches were there because they want Australia first. And that doesn't suit well for the moderates.
Real quickly, can I add some light and shade to this?
Please.
I was talking to a nurse who is Indian, and she was doing a blood test for me, just your standard thing. But she said that most of her friends voted Labor. And I asked why, because they would be natural Conservatives. And she said there was a perception that the Coalition don't like migrants. So in bringing up the migrant issue, Coalition members, including Senator Price, do need to be careful to clarify they're not dissing migrants, they're talking about Labor Party policy, and that's something I think that all Conservatives do need to be very aware of.
I think they've been very consistent this week.
Well, she's come out
James.
after those comments and said, well, my kids have got Indian heritage, etc., etc. But during those comments, she maybe could have been more careful. That's all I'm saying.
I do agree with that. But prior to that, she was very good at saying we're not anti-migration, we're just calling for a lowering of migration.
And to suggest Senator Price is racist is absolutely ridiculous.
I mean, seriously.
Anyway. So it's only because the public debate is so immature that I'm saying
no, I agree.
that you've got to overemphasise we're not talking about the people, we're talking about the policy.
No, I agree.